welcome to episode 5 of the Monolithic podcast. Now, I hope you guys had a good New Year's and Christmas over, the 2023-2024 period, and also depending on what you celebrate. Hope you had a good holiday time if you had time off. Now, I do apologize for the extended absence of recording these podcasts. I remember the last podcast, I think, was released in December, but those were shot all in November. So hopefully, 2024, we can be more consistent with the podcast. I know I'm going to hit that ground running, going to be talking to some really great people in the Manawatu region about tech. So I guess enough about that. This episode, I've got Guy Phillips on. So Guy Phillips is actually the CEO of Bolster, and he can kind of explain what the startup does. But this is my first time talking to a co-founder or a founder of a startup company, I believe. So this is going to be a really cool episode. It was really fun talking about the mentality of a startup founder, having a family, and like sort of building a partnership with, because you can't just start up a startup by yourself. Well, you could, but it's a lot easier if you have someone with you, and sort of having that friendship, getting your idea, validating it, getting out there. And I think this is a really great episode for anyone who's in that sort of situation, and just a great episode overall. So enough about me blabbering. Let's jump into the episode. I hope you enjoy. Start off by just introducing yourself. So who are you, and what are you about?
Yes, I'm Guy Phillips, co-founder and CEO of Bolster. We're a New Zealand tech startup. We're VC backed. My co-founder and I are probably not your typical founders. We've had a career in intelligence before kicking off Bolster. We're both Army veterans. Myself, I'm originally from Britain, so I was in the British Army for a wee while there, and my co-founder Stefan was in the American Army. And we got a good grounding in intelligence analysis. We went on to work with Palantir Technologies. I worked for a company that was providing training and like consultancy support to Palantir Technologies. That's where I met Stefan. We did that for a few years. Got pretty close to some of the problems involved with disparate data and their frustrating consequences at times. And we became very good friends and started to use our experience and some of our skill sets to kind of craft the methodology that now sits at the heart of Bolster. And that's really sort of what we took and have sort of been working on over these last couple of years.
Great. That's really cool. So that's really cool. You come from like an army background. So I think most people would have people I've interviewed so far, a lot of them just come from university. So that's really cool. You got the army background, you and both the co-founder. Sorry that I missed it, but you mentioned that you were in the army and then you worked someplace where you met your co-founder, Stefan. So where was that and how did that sort of arise?
Yeah. So I left the army and I worked for a company, IMSL, providing training and consultancy services to Palantir Technologies. So I was working in the UK, doing a lot of travel around to sort of end customer organizations. And that's what brought me to New Zealand. So I came out in, I think it was early 2013, I think, and that's where I met Stefan. So he was working with Palantir Technologies. We both came to New Zealand to support an end customer organization here, and we hit it off. Had a similar background, similar experiences, and we were working on some projects together. Stefan went down a much more technical route than I, so he's the technical co-founder, and my career saw me sort of stay with the users, working with software. Helping craft and develop core product, but often, using the user interface to answer questions that are important to the mission.
That's really cool. That's really interesting. So you mentioned Stefan's the technical co-founder, and you're sort of more of like more customer facing, I guess, or you kind of work with the stakeholders. Would you agree, or have I got it wrong?
Yeah, no. I mean, especially in our past and sort of the work we were doing when we were working together before Bolster, I was very much embedded with user groups. I would also deploy out if working with military customers on exercise and things like that. So I'd work out in the field. So I was very much working with users. I'd create curriculums in organizations, provide training, build curriculums that aligned with their sort of their analyst progress through an organization. And Stefan, he went on to work for AWS, so he was a senior solutions architect there. So he went down a much more technical path. So our sort of two skill sets, merge quite well for what we're doing at Bolster.
In terms of Bolster, can you go into detail what you guys do and how did you how'd you come up with how'd you start the idea and get to where you want it to be? Have you tried things like this before, or yeah, tell us about Bolster.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess in my previous career, I was fortunate enough to work in different user groups with different missions, different working with different data, working on different systems. Um, but some kind of core fundamentals remained, whatever I was helping folks achieve using software, and that was basically answering questions that they needed to successfully, achieve their mission, achieve their goals. And what I ended up creating over a period of years, and again was fortunate to be able to test it and refine it, was I created an event-centric analytical methodology. And that's what as I touched on, that's what we've sort of baked our technology at Bolster around. So it's an analytical model that's really an abstraction. It made my job easier when I was working with folks who weren't necessarily um, their core purpose wasn't intelligence analysis, so it allowed me to pass on some training and skill sets without having that sort of background knowledge. It allowed me to talk to technical teams and get them on the same page as the users of software. And that's one thing we've done at Bolster is we always ask ourselves, will what we're building now, is that going to support what we call the operator? So it's typically the person doing jobs with their hands, if you like. Because what we
Yeah.
believe is if you build something to serve them, you serve the entire enterprise up to the boardroom and the C level. If you keep them in mind, we
Okay,
deliberately
interesting.
set
Yeah.
out not to serve people who are kind of sitting in front of four screens and had sort of all the tools that they needed. We wanted to get insights out to everybody, no matter where they were in the organization. Um, yeah, so we created this event-centric methodology. We worked in defense and national security spaces. Um, I wanted this idea to be able to scale. I wanted to solve more problems um, than we could in that environment. And we looked around. Steph and I are both immigrants to New Zealand, and we looked at New Zealand,
Yeah.
and we both set up families here, married, children, and so New Zealand's become a very important place to us. We care about it greatly. But we looked around, and at the
Yeah.
time, we were kind of coming out of COVID. I can't remember if we're still in lockdown or not, but either way, it was very apparent at the time how much reliance New Zealand has on its imports and its exports.
Yeah.
And we think that's something that we
Absolutely.
should, yeah, and we think that's something that we should lead in as a country. If there's one thing we should lead in, it should be that. We've got great produce that's exported from here around the world, renowned for it. We've got a great brand. It's so important. It's a huge, contributor to our GDP. And also, like us as citizens, we want more and more stuff. We want more cool gadgets. We need to get stuff into the country to be able to have the lifestyles we want. And being sort of the last bus stop, right down there in the Pacific, yeah, our reliance is huge, and we want to use our technology to help first and foremost here in New Zealand, and then yeah, go out and kind of show the world not only can we produce the best produce, but we can get it to where it's needed in the most efficient ways to make everyone's businesses run better.
That's awesome. When did you start Bolster? When did you guys sort of come up with the idea? How long ago? Was it pre-COVID
Yes,
or before?
that's a good question. It was a busy time. I think it was. So the idea has been around the nucleus. Steph and I kind of having, going on our bushwalks, hanging out and stuff. We've been talking about it for a while, the idea itself and developing that. But we got funding from Hillfront's venture capital, and we got that early. Oh man, my maths is bad. We've been done about 2 years, so that would be early
Yeah.
2021, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can fact check that for you. But yeah, it's about 2 years in round figures. Excuse my rambling.
That's fine. Okay, so how would you describe your friendship or I guess your partnership with Stefan? You talked about bushwalks. Do you guys hang out quite often?
Oh yeah,
So I guess that's really important. Yeah, because you can't just if you want to do build something, it's almost like a marriage. You can't just do it with a random person. You need to because yeah, friendship is tough because you can either ruin the friendship or it could be really. You guys can work really well together. What's your relationship like with Stefan?
Yeah, 100%. It's a really important thing, like embarking on this. Like I'm not, um, I'm not from the startup world. I'm not. I think I've got an entrepreneurial mindset, but I haven't done this type of thing
Yeah.
before. And having Stefan, he's the best man at my wedding. He's a really good friend of mine. We've got
Nice.
trust that we've
Yeah.
developed elsewhere before going into this. I know his kids. We're really good friends, and it's super important. That trust, the ability to know that you've got each other's backs. Yeah, it's key. I couldn't do this. I can't imagine doing this. Yeah, without Stefan, it would be a very different show.
Cool. Do you have any advice for people who kind of want to, build something from like scratch? Like, how would you meet someone? How do you come up with these ideas? And like, what's it like getting VC funding?
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I was fortunate in the environment I was working in, and then just coincidentally meeting someone like Stefan, um, so who was able to listen, give me that sort of technical knowledge that we needed to get Bolster off the ground. So my advice to everyone really is to seize opportunity. If you sense an opportunity, if you sense the right person, like keep an eye on it, have conversations, have honest, frank conversations about stuff. You got to get to know people's risk appetite and things like that. This startup doing a startup isn't easy. There's lots of risks. There's lots of things you
Yeah.
want to do to a higher degree of completeness, but you've just got to take risks. You've got to get out there. You've got to believe in your idea. You've got to believe in the way you're building it. Um, and that's what we did. And when we were at a point, literally the minimum point we could have got to with, right, this is solid. Um, my viewpoints and sort of my documentation, the way I explained our methodology to Stefan, him grasping that, asking me the questions, difficult questions, challenging me with it. And then once he thought about the technology that could underpin that, as soon as we had something, we went out and spoke and to people within the industry in supply chain. We're not from supply chain or logistics. Um, and then as
Oh,
soon as we had an inkling that it could translate into that domain, we went and spoke to some local VCs. And I think part of that passion, part of that belief is one of the reasons why um, Hillfront's wanted to fund us, because they could see
yeah.
our belief, they could see how we'd done it before in different domains, and that the problem needed solving is obviously a big one. Um, but yeah, I think we were fortunate with the timing as well. You've got to have a little bit of luck, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I mean, but you always you need to take the shots, right? Like you never. What's the quote from Michael
100%.
Jordan? Like you miss, or you miss all the shots you don't take. Yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
that's really inspiring and really interesting. You touched on startups aren't easy. Did you have a preconceived notion of what a startup was? Like, did you think, oh, it's just we've got this really cool product, we just talk to cool people, put it out there, and then you get sales? Is that kind of like that's how I think a startup would be? What are some? What about what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I thought that getting funding would be a much longer journey than it was for us.
Okay.
We were again fortunate, and we'd worked hard. We'd done a lot of work without knowing it for years in the background, right, to bring us to this point. But in terms of when we decided we were ready, um, I think it was our second meeting that we started sort of looking at a term sheet and stuff like that. Um, and I guess. Um, Yeah, I think my preconceived notions were that once you get the funding, you've lit the fuse, and things will start to happen. Intros will start to come. There'll be a groundswell, and and the truth is, you have to work really hard to make that groundswell happen, and it doesn't just happen like that.
Yeah.
The funding is and should be the petrol that you pour on the fire. Um, and again, it
Yeah.
depends on your idea and what stage you're at. Like for us, we were taking the idea out of one domain and putting it into a new domain where we had no experience, but we had super confidence in our idea and our technology, and unbelievable. Like we know this can work and this can change the world of moving, change the world of supply chain. Um, so that's really important, having that belief. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, that's good. Have you had any doubts at all throughout this journey?
So I guess when it comes to doubts, like one of the strange things for me was I was working so closely with end users before. I was doing analytics on a daily basis. I was helping them,
Mm.
answer questions, like actually on the tools, getting stuff done on software. And that's what I thought I would be kind of continuing to do with a few other things on the side. And honestly, um, a lot of my day to day is all the stuff that goes into running a business, and not necessarily sort of the thing where I found passion working on the tools and analytics and solving critical problems. Um, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take this idea and make it scale. So I accept that has to change, and we're baking this idea into a technology that can scale. And so I now take, I guess solace in that we are what what we're building will allow people to do better analytics, to get better decisions made. And the fact that I don't get to work on the tools anymore is just that's okay. But I guess I guess I guess I didn't lose hope, but I had hoped that I could be doing more of the analytics stuff. But I'm okay with that now.
Fair enough. What's your day to day like, Guy?
Yeah, yeah, day to day. So we've got a really great team. We jump on a call first thing in the morning, pretty much every morning. Um, we talk about our customers. We're very customer focused, as you can probably imagine and expect.
Yeah.
We ensure that everything's going right where it can. We talk about our product. We're in there. We're all testing the product every day. And then on top of that, obviously, there's the founder sales. So we've been doing lots of outreach. We're also be coming up to another round of funding. So investor outreach. So it's really researching, speaking to potential customers or existing customers, taking their expertise and their experience, how they're benefiting from our platform and where they think they could gain more benefits. One of the cool things is we're built to be very configurable. So if we get awesome ideas, we can add that to our roadmap and relatively quickly build it into the product. So we love communicating with our customers and ensuring they're not sitting on problems that we can potentially solve, whether it's the end of next week or whether it'll be sort of in Q2 or whatever. But getting that stuff out and getting it on the roadmap if we can build it in and make it scale.
That's really cool. I'm interested. What's customer outreach like, and what's investor outreach like? Is it just a call over Zoom, or do you fly over to meet this like stakeholder, I guess, or customer? Or what's outreach like, or potential customer?
Yes. Yeah, so I guess it's happened in different stages, I suppose. So initially, there was a lot of research. If I go back to kind of when we were just getting started, a lot of research, tapping into our existing networks, tapping into LinkedIn, um,
Yeah.
and meeting people on there. Great tool. I didn't have a LinkedIn profile when I started Bolster, so that's all been new to me and stuff. So that's been fun. But we're really fortunate. Again, we
Yeah.
started sort of with our defense contacts and logistics, and they were really helpful, shedding some light. And then from there, who might be willing to speak to us, who might have more experience in a commercial operation, and so kind of using that network. And then once we had sort of a baseline of knowledge, we'd increased our knowledge a little bit, and we must have spoke to close to 100 people really early on, just through sort of
Oh,
calling
wow.
someone, asking them, and spanning out. And people were really generous with their time and listening to us geeks about how we wanted to jump into a domain and solve a problem, not having any experience in there. So it was important for us to kind of, I guess, be very genuine in what we wanted to learn and share what it is, our vision for Bolster and what it can do for the industry. Um, and then from there, it was like, who who do we think is suffering from the problem the most, and how can we identify um, those people, those organizations, and yeah, reaching out and just being honest, saying, hey, we'd like to chat. We don't know, being such an early stage startup that we don't know exactly how your supply chain runs. We don't know which elements that we can fit in, but we can be very flexible due to the way we built our technology. So we're always just looking for really discovery calls and understanding what the main problem is, and then just being honest if we can address that now, or if it's something we're planning to address later on. And then keeping those lines of communication open, really. Like we follow up with people. We always say to people too, if you've got any issues, or if you're looking at moving to the cloud, or if you've got any analytical problems, like, you can pick up the phone and ask us questions too. It's everyone needs help. So we try and establish those kinds of relationships, and especially with our customers. Like, yeah, the partnerships we have with our customers are really critical to us, and we generally really want to help them. Yeah, get get smoother operations running.
Cool. Like, you talked about your team. How big is your team, and what's kind of how's your organization sort of structured?
Yep. So we're a pretty lean team. We have a senior software engineer and business development manager, and then Stefan and myself. So Stefan has the role of CTO. I'm doing the CEO role. So
Yeah.
Stefan really handles sort of product development, and sort of technical oversight. And Glenn, our senior software engineer, he's the expert in that. So yeah, there's a lot of trust in the team, and we've kept it lean. For now, we'll be going for a funding round early this year, which is exciting. And then yeah, our
Yeah.
focus with the raise there will be really to further develop product and probably grow the team slightly as well. But a lot of it's going to be probably around marketing, getting the message out there of like the problems we're solving for people right now, and being able to build out that product to serve that to a wider audience.
In terms of building a team, how's that like process? Obviously, you've got the funding rounds to determine how much pool of money you'll get. How's like how what's your
Yeah.
strategy for hiring people and like getting the right fit?
Yeah, that's I'm still not an expert at that for sure. The way it worked for us was we Steph obviously talked about how we wanted stuff to go, what we wanted to create with Bolster outside of the technology the team we wanted to create. And initially we went out, and our idea was to hire senior people in roles to establish like a really solid foundation. Like, having a strong foundation is the approach I take when working with data. Do sort of the heavy lift up front, and then all your sort of the technology or anything you apply after that will be in a much better place. So we kind of took that approach with our team, and in hindsight, that had lots of benefits. Um, and but the one thing in startup is that willingness to take risks, and you can't always build something to the standard that you want it initially. And so with lots of
Yeah.
experience in larger organizations, that wasn't necessarily the right fit. So we took those learnings. And then what we've done now is really kind of pulled that back in, and we run like a pretty flat sort of hierarchy, I guess. Everyone's an expert in their
Yeah.
individual roles. I'm not a sales expert. I'm not an engineer. And building that team, like the way we went about it was we wrote some ads, put them on the website. We did some LinkedIn, posted those jobs on LinkedIn. Um, and I think with our hires, I think how we ended up, I think we had one outreach, direct outreach to us, and the other was us directly outreaching to them. So it's been although we had all the ads and all the effort gone into that, the way it happened was just a direct message, both times in opposite directions. So um, yeah, not an expert. It's be an interesting round of hiring next, and we'll have to see what we come up with. But honestly, for me, the best way to do it especially if it's a small team and you can, is have an existing relationship. Um, and because just as we've found, is having um, that trust and that personality fit with your early hires is critical. So I think that in my ideal world, it would be someone we've met along the way, and the timing
Yeah.
makes sense and the universe aligns, and yeah,
Yeah, like you said, you need a little bit of luck, right? That's
yep, yeah.
cool. Um, it's quite interesting in terms of like the funding round. And you did mention that you talked about how you're not an expert in certain things. Guy, you seem very knowledgeable to me. How'd you learn all this? Because this has come from previous jobs. So I feel like being a startup founder is very like you just have to make it up. But you seem quite knowledgeable. How'd you learn all this? Do you have a mentor?
Ah, well, that's very flattering. No, I don't have a mentor. That's on a backlog of a list of stuff that I want to do for myself. That's really important. We work with some great folks from like our initial product discovery chats, um, and um, not an official. I don't have an official mentor, but there's a few people that I speak to on a semi-regular basis that are extremely helpful.
Yeah,
So that's been great, and I really again found them as part of us trying to make a go of this. Yeah, as I've said during our product discovery, so all the hard work and effort, we met some people, built those relationships, keep those relationships, and when you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. And if you've met some great people along the way from the industry or an adjacent industry that have great insights, like take full advantage of that. Um, I think if if I was to sum up sort of like what is like how have I done this, it's not through any sort of great wealth of knowledge. It's again through seizing opportunity, and if you just do that every day, whether it's making the effort to build a relationship, whether it's making the effort to pick up the phone, call someone, send an email, help someone out, vice versa. I think all those little things add up and can create uh, a path for a person to achieve something more than they did last week or last year. And I think I've kind of perhaps um, built upon those sorts of things. I'll be honest, I love learning, but I love learning on the job, and I love learning
yeah,
from people. I love hearing from people. I'm not a great reader. I'm not a particularly great writer. That's always been the case through my education. I'm not an academic, but I do love knowledge. So I think um, for me, it's not something that I've sat down and researched and researched. And I think honestly, if you were in my limited experience in the startup world, is you might miss opportunities. You just got to take them and learn as you go. Even even with some of the best advice from previous founders, from well-meaning people on the way, from investors, like this is this is your startup. The situation is different. Probably the technology or whatever it is you're working on is different to whoever's giving you advice. The economy would have shifted. Your
yeah.
customers would have progressed. Nothing nothing has been the same as it is now. And so yes, like heed advice, but make your own decisions and sort of seize your own opportunities. That's probably how I've, as you kindly said, seem really knowledgeable. It's just because I just keep trying and don't give up.
Yeah, that's good. How is like you're talking about family? How is having a family? You can even ask like answer on Stefan's behalf. How is having a family and running a startup at the same time?
Yeah, it's busy, man. It's busy. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
I'm, I'm a first time father. So my son turned 1 in November. So it's been a
Oh,
really
congrats, man.
busy year.
Congrats.
Um, thank thank you very much. Yeah, again, um, I think I guess I've got some good time management skills that I developed over my career, but like this has been a game changer, and it's the support of others, right? It's the support of my wife, our extended family, the community, our friends, and again, we lean on that, we take advantage of that, and yeah, and it's hard work. Look, there's no getting away. There's no hack. Um, you just you gotta prioritize stuff, and it's family first. But fortunate enough that we've got a really good family, and there's some sacrifices to be made, and I also get to focus on Bolster, and it's a busy time. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't have it any other way, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I've got my dream family and my dream job. So yeah.
Great. If you could talk to your like guy from 10 years ago, what would you say to him?
That's a great question. So yeah. So so it's about 10 years ago, I guess, that I came to New Zealand. I had no idea that I was
Yeah,
gonna end up staying here. I came for 3 months, a 3 month work contract that turned into another 3 months and
yeah.
another 3 months, and uh, anyway, the rest is kind of history there. I think if I was to talk to myself, um, it would probably be to back myself more. Um, I think I met a couple of people in my career that were extremely important, that allowed me at times when I thought about giving up to keep on going. This goes back to my time in the army, when I left the army and my first job out, out of that, and then here in New Zealand. And Stefan was one of those people. And it was really to back yourself, and um, yeah, take the time to kind of have a look at what you're doing, where you are, and where you want to be going. I guess I never really formed a plan necessarily, and that sometimes worked out well for me. But I probably asked myself to take a step back, have a look, ha- have a look at where you are, and what is it you want to achieve, and maybe move some levers a bit earlier than I did. Um, yeah, that's probably the sort of advice I'd give myself. Yeah. If it wasn't for these few key
That's a great.
people, um, yeah, I may have made some different decisions, and not been doing what we're doing at Bolster.
Great. That's a great answer, Guy. How do you find, I guess you're in Lower North Island, Palmerston North, or you're in Wellington? Like, how do you find living down here?
Yeah, yeah, it's great. So yeah, when I came to New Zealand, I was working in Wellington. Lived in Wellington for a while. Moved out to the Hutt Valley after a year or so. Spent some time there. That was our first house, my wife and I. And then during COVID, this probably helps with some of the timing from the other questions. But during COVID,
Yep.
um, my wife could work remotely, and that continued on as COVID kind of restrictions eased. I was starting Bolster, so we're 100% remote. And we just had a
Yep.
chat about sort of our lifestyle and what we wanted. I come from a rural background,
Yep.
so I kind of spent my summer holidays on my uncle's farm, and yes, I like space. So we've got a little bit of a lifestyle block here that I like tending
Cool.
to. Um, my wife studied around here a few years ago, and she has family in the area. So it was just like, yeah, let's bounce up north a little bit and get a bit more space and be a bit closer to some key family members. And we really enjoy it here. There's a great sense of community. Um, it was good for me to get out and about a bit more. It's where I met Steve at Manawa Tech, and since there I've been
Yep.
to a number of events based on yeah, the stuff that's been put on, and it's been awesome. That was something that I didn't do too much in my previous life, um, my previous career. So um, yeah, yeah, really enjoying it. And the weather right now is awesome, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, the last 2 days have been great, you could say. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah,
So you're living out rural. Yeah, I guess that explains the internet, right? If you're living out rural. So, um, I guess we're kind of coming up to we're coming up to the end of the podcast. Did you have any last words that you want to mention to anyone? Like anything you want to say about, either Bolster, what you want to reiterate, what you want to pass down to anyone listening?
Yeah, I guess I've met a few folks at some of the events I've just spoken about who are either embarking on a startup, have been involved, longer than I have in startups. But I think, I guess the one thing I'd want to pass down is that um, it's just really about seizing opportunity. Like if you've got an interest
Yeah.
and you've got an idea, like go for it. Go and talk. Don't be scared about like people, thinking your idea is a bad one. Like just go and get opinions on it, test it out. And I think that's how you'll find the right people to kind of embark on a journey like this with.
Do you have any special talents, Guy? Just a random question.
Special talents. Um, I'm trying to think what my friends would say or something. What a special talent.
I mean, you're already a remarkable founder. I
No.
mean, you're very knowledgeable in that realm. But what sort of talents do you have?
Hmm. You got me stumped, man. I don't know. What talents do I have? Yeah, I'd probably asking the wrong person. I don't know. Maybe my modesty.
Yeah, there we go. That's a great one to have. Cool. If anyone wanted to get in touch with you, Guy, where do they find you? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, yeah. The best way is probably on LinkedIn, or you can hit up bolster.nz, and there's a contact us page there that'll get through to me as well.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Guy, for jumping on the podcast and probably have you on another time. And good luck with the progress of your startup.
Cool. Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's been great talking to you too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with Guy Phillips on the Manawa Tech podcast. If you have any feedback, it is welcome. And as always, catch you in the next one. Peace.